Hey everybody, here looking at a camera that I purchased back in March of 2018. This is a DXG A85V, and you can see I've kind of hurt it. A while back I replaced its really horrible stock microphone with a jack to where I could plug in a fake Sony ECM DS70P microphone, which did make for quite a bit of improvement in this camera's audio. It's still not the greatest, but it's better than what it was. I did use this for some Cube Computer Channel videos back in March and April, before I got the Sanyo Zacti CG10 and the current camera I'm using now, which I believe is a Zacti CG101. But one of the things I couldn't stand with this camera was its absolutely horrible battery life. It used to run on this battery here, an NP120, which is a 3.7 volt lithium-ion battery rated at 1700 milliamp hours. But this is clearly a replacement pack. It's not the factory original that came with the camera. And it's funny, this camera appears to have not really been used all that much. So I find it kind of interesting that they had to replace the pack. I don't know, maybe they had to buy a new pack because the old one was crap. I don't know. This camera was donated to a thrift store somewhere in Texas, and they sold it on eBay. And of course I bought it off of there. I think I paid like $30 for it with shipping, something like that. It wasn't too awful much. But I tell you, yeah, I did this to it first. I did the mic mod, but I just didn't really want to do much more with it. The camera was in such pristine condition, other than me wrecking up a little bit. I really didn't want to do much with it, but this thing sat on my shelf for several months, not really doing anything useful. And ever since I got this camera, I've been wondering, how can I 18650 mod it? And of course, 18650 modding is the practice of converting cameras like this PlayTouch to run on 18650 lithium-ion cells. For example, this one's running on 2 parallel cells, or like the camera I'm shooting with right now, my CG101. If you look carefully, you can see the 18650 mod right there on the side. Essentially, it allows me to have an ample supply of power for my cameras, 18650s, and also the 18650s offer a much higher capacity and thus a much longer runtime. But on this DXG A85V, the battery goes into the bottom. So it was like, how am I going to do this? But after this thing sitting for several months, I finally decided, what the heck, I'm going to do it. I'm going to 18650 mod it or else. Because this camera, although it is a DXG, this thing is pretty nice for a DXG. The zoom lens on it sort of reminds you of DSLR quality cameras in a way. This thing, when you zoom in on a subject, it is good at focusing on a subject many feet away and blurring everything else out. And also, this thing offers manual touch to focus. You can actually press this button to the right to enable manual focus, and then on the display you can tap what you want this thing to focus on and it will do it, which is very interesting. So I did finally 18650 mod it. And let me tell you, this was the most complicated 18650 mod I've ever done. Not only the process of actually installing this battery pack, the holder, I had to completely gut out the bottom of this thing, completely tear out the plastic, and also a metal piece that was in here, which luckily just had like 3 or 4 screws and it came right out. I had to tear this thing open to that extent to get enough room to snugly fit this 18650 holder in place. But that was only, as I mentioned, that was not the only part that was so difficult here. Pull this off of here and you can better see the pack. There it is. And right now I'm using the cover that I've been running on my Zacti camera because I need to make me a cover for this. Not sure I'm going to do it this year. I might have to harvest in our laptop battery pack because this is part of a shell of a Toshiba battery pack. So the terminals are up here under this tape, which I use to cover up everything, and I try to make everything as neat as possible with these 18650 mods, but you know, that can be a challenge. So I got it installed and everything, but first I installed this pack, this holder, and this is the first of a set of like 4 or 5 I bought off of eBay. This is my second purchase, and these are a little bit different than my older ones. These here, I'm not so sure about how well they work. Put it this way. This camera is probably the most current hungry camera of the cameras I've 18650 modded. And I can understand why camcorders of this type usually run on 7.4 volts or heck even more than that. Because to operate the equipment in this guy it takes a good bit more power than, let's say, the play touch there, which has no moving parts. It's fixed focus, whereas this guy, you know, has autofocus, has a big zoom lens, kind of like the Zacti in a way, but the Zacti's a bit smaller scale. This thing does draw quite a bit of current. Doesn't draw any more than 3 amps, otherwise it would pop the 3 amp fuse, but I would say it draws at least 1 amp. It may be closer to 2 amps when it's zooming in and zooming out. With that battery pack there installed, the negative terminals, which are the ones that are sticking out toward the back, I could feel they would actually get warm when the camera's running. And when I would go to zoom, it would go from showing 3 bars to dead battery. And I was like, oh great. Anytime I would hit the zoom, it would just immediately show dead battery. What was going on is this crappy holder was, you know, through the cheap design, it was causing enough resistance to where the voltage over here would be like 2.9 volts or 3.2 volts, whereas the actual batteries were still running at 4.1 or 4 or 3.9 volts. There was enough voltage drop that when this camera needed current, that it would think the batteries are dead, even though they were perfectly fine. So I ripped this thing out, and I took this pack, which was on weather case camera number 2. You know, this piece of crap over here that I already had plans to retire and replace with something better. I sabotaged the battery pack off of that to use on this. Wired it in the 3 amp fuse, and it works just fine. I mean, I filmed family at Christmas with this thing, and keeping up with a 3-year-old, zooming in, zooming out, zooming in, zooming out. Yeah, didn't have any problems, and I recorded probably at least a half hour, no issues. It still shows 3 bars. So it finally accomplished what I wanted with this thing, where I could use this thing like I want to without the battery going dead after 30 minutes or so. Yeah, that's pretty much the only amount of runtime I would get out of this battery here was like 30 minutes to maybe even an hour if I was lucky. Because this thing, it's a bit current hungry. Anyways, let's go ahead and pop this back on. Yeah, I got this camera off the tripod because I'm going to actually be using this for a little bit on my Cube Computer Channel videos. And I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to note in the video description which camera I used and let you guys tell me which one you like better, the DXG A85V or the Sanyo Zacti CG101. Because I'll use either or. The Zacti CG101 is quite a nice camera. It has much better macro. As a matter of fact, it's not even set to macro right now. That's about as close as it can get right now. But that's about as close as the DXG this DXG camera can do. But the Zacti, when you have it set to macro, the macro focus is so good that it will focus in on the smallest of objects. So that's where this one here has a bit of a lead. And also I think this one has slightly better audio than the DXG. But the DXG does better in low light conditions than this one does. So it's really, you know, either or. It don't really bother me. I'll use either or. Now the camera I'm filming with right now, the Zacti, I bought it off eBay a while back and it had a defect. And apparently it was a defect from the factory. The timekeeping cell that keeps track of the date and time and also all the settings apparently is dead. And I tried to change it, and I managed to get the old cell off, but the dang solder pad, the little microscopic solder pad, just got messed up when I got it off. So this thing now has no timekeeping cell, which really was no different in behavior versus what it was before. Because I could pop the battery out of this thing for just a second, just 1 second, and it will lose track of date, time, and all the settings. See, this Zacti camera, you can customize the heck out of it with lots of settings and stuff like that. The DXG does not have that much functionality in its menu, but it does. I mean, it makes up for it with features like tap to focus in the manual focus and having a very nice lens. Although it can't macro as good, it definitely can produce some really nice video. So let's go ahead and start it. And of course, as mentioned, you'll see some videos pretty soon on the channel of what this thing can do. So that right there, see if we can get this, yeah, there we are. That right there is about as close as it can do focusing, which is pretty decent, I think. But the zoom this thing has is really nice, which I don't use zoom much for videos on this channel, but it is nice to have. And too bad it's dark outside, otherwise I could show you just how well this thing does. Let me try to focus in on my bird puppet back there. Yeah, it's just too dark in here. Plus, it's hard to keep a steady hand when you're filming with two cameras. But you may be able to see right there on video how everything in the background is blurred out, but the bird cage, the towels in the bird cage, and the puppet are more in focus. So yeah, I can actually get the Zacti camera to focus like that if I manually set to macro focusing, which I usually run it in this mode on my Cube Computer Channel videos anyway. But for example, this is how well this thing can focus in macro. Yeah, that's pretty incredible. So yeah, for real close-up stuff, that does come in handy. And let's try doing the same thing again that I did with the DXG camera. It isn't quite sure what to do there, so yeah, let's see. Yeah, it's blurring it pretty bad here. I think it's because we're so low on lighting here. Yeah, the Zacti also can't zoom quite as far either. So yeah, it shows we're down to 2 bars on battery, which It was starting to show 2 bars a bit yesterday. No, excuse me, on Christmas Day when I was filming with this thing. So it is a nice camera. And I'm glad that it has a more reliable power source than what it had previously. So, anyways, I know some of you guys who remember this camera may have been wondering, are you going to 18650 mod it? Well, I finally did it. I finally did it. Yeah, this thing is pretty sweet. I'll be honest. I'm gonna try to get a steady hand here. You can see how it's focusing right on my vise, but look at how blurred out the background is. This is like a camera I have at work for filming stuff at work. A real nice high-end Panasonic camcorder. That's how this thing compares in focusing. Which, yeah, this is pretty amazing. So anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video. Thanks for watching. Well guys, that's it for this one. But it doesn't have to be. There's plenty more videos on the channel to check out. Also, if you liked the video, please click the like button. And if you absolutely hated it, there is the alternative button as well. But yeah, please subscribe to the channel. I definitely appreciate it. And remember to click the bell so that we get notified of all updates. Also, if you're interested in things aside from computers and technology, check out my second channel. It's CubeComp MTDX. Over there you'll find videos about weather, elevators, bicycling, and pretty much whatever else I figure out to upload. So yeah, anyways, hope you guys enjoyed this video, and thank you for your support.